We're back now talking about telephone harassment, and right now we want to introduce David and Stephanie. Their daughter, Maura, died when she was only 4 months old. 2 days after Maura's funeral, their phone rang, and they're here to tell us how that phone call changed their lives. David, you answered the phone call. What did the caller say?
First call we received, the caller said, "I want to talk to Maura," our daughter's name, who just passed away. I thought maybe it was a mistake, but they went on further. She went on further to say, "I really want to talk to Maura." And within a few seconds, I could sense that this was someone who was really trying to inflict some real pain.
And she succeeded because you had a very, very strong reaction, understandably. What were you feeling when you heard that woman's voice?
I was feeling a couple of things. I was feeling initially rage, some absolute amazement at how cruel someone could be. And I think the deepest pain was that we had just lost a 4-month-old baby who I had promised my wife would not die, and she did. And I felt here was another situation where I could not keep a promise to my family or protect them from pain. So I felt very, very defenseless.
Stephanie, you decided to try and do whatever it took to track down the person who was doing this?
That's right. I was not the receiver of the phone call. David was, and when I heard him screaming, I came into the kitchen and I said, I thought someone else had died. I said, "Oh my God, David, what happened now? Someone else died?" And he hung up the phone. He was so angry, and he punched the wall. He says, Why won't they leave us alone?" I said, Who, David, who? He said, "That was someone calling, asking for Maura." I went, "What kind of man would do this? What kind of man?" He says, "Stephanie, it wasn't a man, it was a woman." I went, "Oh my God." And he picked up the phone. He said, "I'm going to get this phone number changed right away." I said, hold on. I can't believe someone was this cruel. I'm going to find out who this person is. Because if they're doing it to us, they must be doing it to many, many people. We called the Peabody Police Department. They were wonderful. They were very receptive to our pain. They said, "We're going to call the telephone company. You call the telephone company. Let's get a trap on the line right away." It was Memorial Weekend. He said, "We're going to find out who did this." Make a long story short, the first call came in at 9:45. By 11 o'clock that morning, we had a trap set. With no authorization from the technician supervisor. He was just, when we told him the story, his voice was shaking, yes. And he just put the trap on the line and took the consequences.
Another call came in.
Another call came in at 2 minutes before 1, and I picked up the phone, and I went, "Hello?" No answer. I went, "Hello?" And I knew someone was there. I hung up the phone. I said, "David, that person is the person that called at 9:45 this morning, and she doesn't want to talk to me. She wants to talk to you." I said, "She's going to call right back." I watched the clock. Sure enough, 17 seconds later, the phone rang, and David picked up the phone. He said, "Hi, Daddy, this is Maura. Come and get me. I miss you and Mommy." And we knew we had her on the trap, but David said, "Okay, honey, you tell me where you are and we'll come get you." And she went, "Oh, come get me now, Daddy." And David just hung up the phone. We called the Peabody Police Department again, and they said, "We got her."
And who was she?
Her name was Ruth Siegel, and she worked that particular day at the local hospital in Peabody in the medical records department. But how we knew her was she worked at Floating Hospital in Boston, where Maura was being treated and died, in the medical records department. So she knew more about us than we possibly could. She knew a lot about us.
You decided to take this to court?
Yes, we did.
Give us a sense, an overview, if you will, of how this sort of case is treated in the court system.
Certainly. First of all, if I may, the police came and they told us once they had the trap on the line. Of course, they only knew where the call came from. At that point, they didn't know who the call was made by. And they told us, now, you understand this is going to be someone you know. And we said, well, I'm sure it isn't going to be, because anyone we would know would never do this to us. And clearly, we know now that, in fact, he was correct. They confronted the woman. She confessed. We then went to the court system, and all we wanted to do was to have her found guilty and to get some court-ordered psychiatric care. That's the only two conditions that we really wanted. She fought the system the whole way. We had a grueling ordeal of going through the court system for some 14 months, going in and out of court for probably 15, maybe 20 times. In fact, her attorney even tried so much as to say, well, maybe they weren't really harassed. They only received 2 calls. And I'm sorry.
But the mentality is such that this is not, these sort of complaints are not taken seriously? Is that what I'm hearing?
Hardly enough. In fact, and I can understand how the court system can become very callous to a cruel caller when they're dealing with murders and rapists and drug addicts every day of the week. This seems so insignificant to them. However, what we found was that we were contacted by many people who had been victims of this same exact woman
For 30 years.
for 30 years, and they called to tell us that they felt some guilt by not pursuing it more when they received the phone calls. Now, what my wife and I couldn't bear to see is someone else go through the pain knowing that we might be making the phone call to that victim saying, gee, I'm sorry we didn't push the issue.
So you went through the agony of 14 months, being almost at times seen as a nuisance, I'm getting a sense.
Well, yeah, and I must be perfectly honest. There were times when I would have thrown in the towel, but my wife really
She's a
said
fighter,
it's
eh?
going to be worth it.
Okay. What happened to Ruth Siegel?
She was finally found guilty. She did finally have to receive 1 year of court-ordered psychiatric care. And it was also very, very important for us to have her found guilty. She's only 2 credits away from receiving her nursing degree, which is...
Before we go into break, we should also point out something that deserves applause. You have a beautiful 9-year-old daughter, Sharon, if she's still 9, and also a 6-month-old daughter, Emily. We are going to take a break. Next